In preparation for today, I Googled the word survivor. The top 100 hits were about the reality show. Everybody's familiar with the show, right? I thought people who would willingly be marooned in a jungle with no food, water, shelter, and bugs, with a bunch of strangers to help them survive, were pretty much nuts. For $1 million, no thank you. Being diagnosed with cancer is just like that, except we don't go willingly. My jungle is thyroid cancer. The strangers are doctors, nurses, and researchers, and my prize is being alive. The Survivor producers would hate having us on their show. We all want each one of us to win, and we would do it as a team. Doesn't make for good TV. My new reality officially started in May of 2013. For years, my gynecologist had been telling me that my thyroid was enlarged. Each time I would go to my family doctor, I would tell her what she said. She would run blood work and palpate my neck and said everything was okay. At my annual visit in 2013, my gynecologist told me my thyroid was huge, and she said she was done with my family doctor, and she sent me herself for the ultrasound. When the results came back, my family doctor now called me, and she ordered a biopsy. She said that they had seen microcalcifications on nodules in my thyroid and things that just didn't look right. So she told me, too, that I should be prepared for cancer. I kind of forgot to breathe for a minute. Was she kidding me? Everything was okay. When she said the word cancer, everything else after that sounded kind of like Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. I heard nothing. But I'm pretty sure she told me that thyroid cancer is very treatable. No one dies from thyroid cancer. And if you're going to get cancer, this is the one you want. By some miracle, my mother showed up in my office that day. That's when I lost it. My mom has the strength of the biggest army in the world. I don't remember what she told me. She probably pointed out some other crazy thing that I had survived, and believe me, there were a lot of doozies. But I knew I had the strength, her strength behind me. I also knew that I had the strength of the man I'd been married to for 20 years behind me. My doctor called me July 5th. I made her swear that no matter what day of the week it was, the 4th of July or not, she would tell me what the results were, and it was confirmed that I had papillary carcinoma. Shocking. We all had that moment, the diagnosis. So I said, let's go to Dorney Park. We need to have a little bit of fun. So since 2009, the American Thyroid Association's standard for care for differentiated thyroid cancer included extensive scanning to determine what needed to be removed during surgery, killing off remnant thyroid tissues with radioactive iodine, and TSH suppression therapy. This is why people call it the good cancer. It's pretty simple with a very high survival rate. My $1 million prize came in the form of a big blue pill presented by a tech in a spacesuit. Picture this. An astronaut pulls out a lead container, uses tongs to pull out a glass container outside of that, puts it down on the table next to me with a glass of water and says, take this. And then I said, okay, now what? She said, go home, get out of here, don't go anywhere near elderly people, babies, or pregnant people for at least a week. I was radioactive. Every medical person I encountered back then told me rather nonchalantly that this was no big deal. I believed them. They knew what they were talking about. So I didn't do the research I needed to do. I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't go to the right places. And I didn't have the right advice. And I paid for that. My cancer had metastasized to lymph nodes and surrounding tissue, all of which could have been discovered by more experienced doctors. I went through treatment and was reassured that the iodine would take care of whatever was keeping my tumor markers elevated. And told again 4 months later, let the iodine do its job. It didn't. So I decided to get a second opinion at a different place. And then I didn't trust anybody, so I got a second opinion of the second opinion. That's how I ended up at Johns Hopkins Thyroid Tumor Center. You want to talk about a warranted sense of security? That's where you get it. My team answered every question I had, and after doing the research that I had done, I had countless questions. In fact, before my pre-reoperative procedure, I emailed Dr. Tufano 3 pages of questions. I was overwhelmed by relief when he walked into the exam room with a printout of my questions and said, let's start at number 1. Getting to my surgery last January included more scans, more biopsies, because Dr. T didn't have the big picture yet. Reoperative procedures in general are tricky, but in neck surgery, you have the risk of vocal cord damage and vocal fold paralysis. There's a reason that Dr. T is highly respected. He's awesome. My first round of blood work showed that there was almost no tumor marker. Dr. Ball, my endocrinologist, commented on the skill of Dr. Tufano and that I had him to thank for this. So I called his office. I told him nothing was wrong, I just needed to talk to the doctor. He called me back immediately, and I told him my news. I told him I was a little bit in love with him at that moment, and that he told me he made my day. I made his day. I have a chronic disease. I have to take thyroid replacement medication for the rest of my life and be reevaluated pretty regularly. My disease was more advanced than what was first diagnosed, and I'm at a moderate risk for reoccurrence. So I'll stress out for about 2 months before each one of my blood work rounds. And for me this year, it'll start on Thanksgiving Day. I got here because I have the greatest support system in the world. My husband and son, family, friends, co-workers at Rosemont College, my doctors, the amazing people I've met through the Thyroid Cancer Survivor Association, and strangers on Facebook, now Heather, who's a friend, have all carried me when my feet don't work. For us, the survivor isn't the last man standing. It's all of us. Anyone who has been touched by a cancer diagnosis, patient, friend, family, doctor, nurses, caregivers, our canine companions, we are all survivors. Thank you.